I've spent about the last 24 hours reading through the City of Beloit's high volume water customer feasibility study. Oh, that's a mouthful. What I wanted to understand is what it actually says and not what people are saying about it, because several people have just recently received it from an open records request from the city. So there are a few things that really made me stop and think, and I wanted to share those with you. So first of all, the study was completed on July 30th, 2026. So it was just completed by Strand Associates, and it looks at whether the city's water system can support proposed high volume water users and then what infrastructure might be needed to do that. The report goes on to say that it was prepared to evaluate the feasibility of adding proposed high volume water users to the City of Beloit's water distribution system. Now, before I get into it, I just want to mention one thing. Throughout this, I'll be reading a few portions directly from the report, and everything else is simply me sharing what stood out to me and the questions that came to mind while I was reading it. There was one sentence, though, that really made me stop and read it twice, so I'm going to read it to you exactly as it's written. Since the inception of this study, the water demands required by the proposed users have been reduced by an order of magnitude and are more aligned with water uses associated with light industry and/or office commercial development. Now, if you're anything like me, your first thought probably was, what in the world does order of magnitude mean? So the report is saying the projected water demands became roughly 1/10 of what they were originally expected to be. Earlier in the study, it discussed projected water demands of about 2 million gallons per day on average and 2.9 million gallons per day on a maximum day. Later in the report, those projected demands become about 25,000 gallons per day on an average day and 100,000 gallons per day on a maximum day. So that really made me scratch my head a little bit. Like, why did it drop so much? The report also says the updated demands for the development have been reduced since the inception of the project due to changes in site processes. And honestly, that made me ask, what's changed? The report tells us the projected demand changed because of changes in site processes, but it doesn't explain what those changes were. So I kept reading, and then I came to another section that made me stop again. And it says this study identifies future development areas in the town of Beloit and the town of Turtle. And get this, totaling 4,480 acres. 4,480 acres of future development within the town of Beloit and the town of Turtle. With the projected ultimate build-out maximum day demand, another mouthful, of 7.65 million gallons per day of water. 7.65 million gallons per day. So once again, I had to ask, how did the study go from evaluating proposed high volume water users to planning for approximately 4,480 acres of future development? The report says those projections are based on the 2022 utility extension study using 1,730 gallons per acre per day, but it doesn't explain in this report why that number was selected or what assumptions were used to arrive at that projected ultimate build-out. And as I kept reading, one more statement really stood out to me. The report concludes that the water system demands are at or approaching the point of exceeding the system's supply capacity. It also concludes that future development would require additional infrastructure. So that would include new wells, storage tanks, booster pumps, and water mains, with an estimated cost of $65 million. Who pays for those improvements? Now, maybe the answers to every one of those questions are in another report. I honestly don't know yet, but here's what I do know. When I finished reading the study, I didn't walk away feeling like I had all the answers. I walked away wanting to understand it better, and I don't think that's a bad thing, because it means you're taking the time to understand it. So over the next few days, I'm going to keep digging and I'm going to keep reading, and if I find answers to those questions, I'll share them, because I want to understand the information that's being used to shape this community. And if you've read this report too, I'd really love to know what stood out to you. Maybe you noticed something I missed. Maybe you found an answer to one of the questions that I asked today. Because by reading this information and asking good questions, we can learn from each other.